Good Monday morning, everyone. It is still hot as hell here in Texas. Okay. The fall has not come to us. So if you have it where you're at, please send it down. Okay. Because we're just melting. It's a melting pot here. But you guys are listening to Author Talk with me, Aimee Russell. L.R.W. Lee is here with us today, and Valerie will be joining us shortly. But let's dive into the weekend, okay? Because it's been a fun, chaotic, as you can tell if you are watching us. And if you're not, well, I'm just going to tell you. Anyways, I'm at my mama's house. My mom is watching the girls. So Josh is at his big GPA midstream oil and gas conference where I have to play trophy wife for a couple of days. So you know how this goes. I've got to pull myself together and stay up late at night. And you know that that's difficult for me to do. Russell's laughing because he knows that it's extremely difficult for me to pull myself together and look presentable. Okay. I only do that on Mondays for you guys.
That's not true.
It's true.
It's the staying up late,
Oh, yeah.
and it's the pretending that you care in the conversations as you're the trophy wife, and etc. 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 That's the challenging part that I'm sure you're good at, but I'm also sure you're thinking in the back of your head other things, like doing list of the things that you haven't got done that day and doing a list of the things you need to get done by Friday
Well,
as you're talking about someone's weather.
that's a true statement. But at the same time, I know nothing of the oil and gas industry. I don't know anything about midstream, right? I know book production, book marketing, book publishing. So if there any of them are wanting to publish a book, I'm your girl. I can talk to you. I can talk your ear off. I can tell you everything that's going on and what you should and should not be doing, right? I do not know anything about anything that's going on. So when they're having these conversations, I am just like, oh wow, okay, yeah, no, yeah, I understand. Yep, I
Is
just
there
Well, and
anything
if you're
worse?
well,
Go
and if
ahead,
you're
Linda.
anything like me, I can't stand small talk. So those are the worst situations. It's like, does this conversation matter? No. It's like, I hate those. So yes.
no, I know it's one of those things where I'm just like, oh my goodness, I don't know what I don't, yeah, and it's also one of those things, right? If we're being completely honest, completely fair. If any of you guys have received my emails, if you haven't, be glad that you haven't received my emails. Okay, because my grammar and everything, but these people use really big words, and I don't know what these big words mean, and there's no context clues around these words. So I swear I believe I look like a deer in headlights when they use these words. And I'm like, can you spell that? Because I don't know what that means. Like
Well,
maybe
hopefully you're not the only spouse there, the only trophy spouse. So you
no.
have good company, right? I've been in those situations before. It's like I get it. It's no fun.
Is there anything worse than when your spouse is talking company talk
Yeah.
to the other people around you and you're like, I have to stand or sit here during this crap?
Well, yes, but
It makes me mad.
I don't get mad, but it is kind of interesting to see, right? To see and learn about all these companies. To me, it's kind of an interesting fact, right? But on like their opening reception, like when everybody's coming in town and they have like their nightly get together or whatever, there is so much like goodies that they just want you to take. So I just walk around and get them. I am the one that these people love because they're like, I don't want to go home with this. I'm like, oh,
Yes.
I got two daughters. They're gonna want these squishies. Oh, I'm a sucker for a hat, so I take a hat, and then they talk you into taking a pen, and then the next thing you know, you got a bag full of stuff, right?
That you
So
have to take home now. Yes.
yeah, I have to take it home now, but that's okay, right? But I more kind of peruse while he's doing that. I know he's got to find me, but I kind of peruse, and I hope that no one talks to me about what I do in the industry. I hope that. Russell.
Can I tell you a funny story?
Yes, I would love to.
Okay. Linda, I have a corporate executive life. Okay. So when we go to functions for her company, I usually try to mellow out, not be loud, not be too extroverted, because I love my wife and I admire her a great deal, and I don't want to disempower her by being
Yeah.
something else,
Overshadow.
right?
Totally.
I'm trying to be the loving, supporting spouse when
Yes.
she needs me, right? Every once in a while, we'll go to a company party and she'll say, I don't want nice Russell. I want party Russell there tonight.
Nice.
So
Ooh.
tonight, I want party Russell, which means I can be
Me. Yeah, you could be me. Yeah.
I can be party Russell.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I love
But I'm on this leash that she has to unhook before I do that. So I
How,
actually
how long
completely
have you been married?
41 years.
Wow, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's
Yeah.
super cool. So yeah, so I'm having to do that. Tonight would be like party Aimee night, but you guys know I am in bed by 9 or 10 at the latest. And but
That's because you're up at 4.
I'm up early with my kids and stuff, right? So it's like so stay out and do all these crazy things. But whatever. I go out there, I play my role, do all these things. Tomorrow is where it's like how Russell you would be hooked on and doing that. That's me tomorrow. So tomorrow it's just like, in like an extreme sense, you curtsy, you cross your T's, dot your I's, you hope you just act like you know these big words and you really don't, but we're just gonna act like we do. You know what I'm saying? So
Morning.
that's generally good morning, Valerie.
She
So
is.
that's generally how it is. So I'm at my mom's hanging out. My kids, Russell, you're gonna love this, and then we can dive into everybody else's weekend. My kids, when we were coming down yesterday, they're like, "Mom, Nona and my sister, we'll take care of each other. We don't need you. You don't need to come visit. We're at Nona's." And then they were all like, "Okay, well." Nona kind of lets us do whatever. So if we ask first, like we're supposed to, and she lets us do it, can we do it? Like we asked. And so my kids don't even care that I'm here, to be completely honest. They're with my mom and they're so happy with my mom that I am non-existent.
Tell your mother to try to do a better job with them so they'll like make their bed in the morning.
Oh, she already did that. She has already done this whole thing.
Because she already realized she failed with you.
It's true. I did not make my bed today. I mean,
Linda, that's a joke from last week.
Yes.
When her mother was typing in comments that
Yeah.
complaining about that, and I was like, that's her fault because Amy's was the 5th and baby of the family, and so
yes.
she was the one that her mother never made do stuff.
Yes.
Okay, now
I too am a baby of my family, so
yes,
babies unite. Yes.
yes, thank you.
I hate babies.
Russell, you shut your mouth. What did you do this weekend?
Okay, I had a
We didn't
wild
have any
weekend.
choice in the matter of when we were born. Okay.
Oh, he did not. Yes.
But your parents did.
Mhm.
Okay. So I had a wild. First, I want to brag about my granddaughter in Texas. Linda, I am in Georgia, in the mountains of Georgia, where there is fall and it is cooler. And the forest that you see behind me and surrounds where I live on the mountain, all the leaves are already falling. It's a mess.
Nice.
This is one of my twin granddaughters. She's 3 years old in Houston, Texas, and this is her eating her first whole jalapeno and
wow.
loving it.
Oh my.
And loving it. And I'm like,
Really?
Eleanor's
Wow.
a Texas girl.
Yes, she is.
Wait,
Proud
does it
of
have cheese on it? Does it have cheese on it? Is that a nacho?
This one did, but the next one that she ate after this, her dad said was a whole one, and she ate it.
Oh
Nice.
my.
I'm so
And she
proud
did-
of her.
Good
She
for
didn't
She's
her.
hardcore.
Wow, that's impressive. I don't even eat jalapenos, and I live in Texas too. So
Where do you
Sorry.
live, Linda?
Austin.
Okay. So
Nice. Okay.
so you understand. So I'm
I
very
do.
proud of her.
I grew up in upstate New York, so I get the fall too. I get that
Yeah.
too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm enjoying the mountains of Georgia, though they're not really mountains. People here just think they are.
Yeah.
My other story is we went Kansas City Chiefs Circus hit Atlanta for the Falcons game last night, and we got tickets.
Nice.
And the circus was our experience last night because number one, we didn't go until an hour before the game,
Yeah.
which meant that we were stuck in traffic the entire time. And I mean, nightmare traffic. I mean, stay in one place. No, it was stupidity, not bravery.
That's what I was saying it nicely. I was calling you stupid nicely by calling you a brave soul.
No, just call me stupid because that's what I was calling myself. And then we paid we paid more than $40 for a parking spot that we could in a parking garage we couldn't find in that traffic.
Oh man.
And then when we finally found it, we found out that we had been scammed and we had bought a parking spot on a third-party parking thing, and they wouldn't accept it.
Oh, geez.
Oh,
So,
snap.
Terrible.
so we were massively screwed. But Russell, being Russell, somehow entered the parking lot anyway.
Nice.
And so we were able to park. So we got there midway through the second quarter, and I had to contain my own frustration and anger, because when you've been married 41 years, that can immediately erupt in. Linda, you shake your head. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
So yeah, I got it.
So
yeah.
you know what I'm talking about. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So we had to deal with that. And I'm used to University of Texas college crowds. Okay. NFL game crowds are a whole rougher crowd than the college crowd that I'm used to.
Well, it's the
And
professional leagues, right?
right, and there was these five guys sitting right in front of us that every time they were about to hike the ball, all stood up. So it was one thing and then another, but it was a
Did you
great
stay till the
game.
end? Did you stay to the end?
No,
That was a rough game. That was a
'Cause
very rough game.
because we were worried we were going to get towed.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
Well, that
you
shows
know,
that you've lived in Houston long enough to know, right? I'm afraid to park anywhere downtown. I'm like, I don't know. Is this safe? There's a sign over there. There's a sign over there. Is it safe?
Right.
yeah.
So we had a lot of experiences this weekend. Is the best way, nicest way to
But
say
you
it.
didn't get towed. You did not.
No, we did not.
There you go.
Russell was a little slyer than we expected.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud. I would have
That
done.
I know how to break the rules.
I would have done the same thing. It's called a loophole, Russell. It's called a loophole.
You're proud of me that I know
Right.
how to break rules.
Because you know how to form loopholes within those.
You know, my wife is a rule follower.
Yeah.
I'm not. That's why I practiced family law for 41 years. And she always hates it until she doesn't. Right?
It benefits her.
Linda, you know what I'm saying again, don't you?
I do. My son was always one. Talk about the rule breaker. You would explain, okay, this is the limit. This is the boundary. And his brain, it was like, okay, I'm going to stick my toe just over the edge. So it was always that his entire childhood. It's like, here's the rule. Here's the boundary. And it was always just getting a little bit over just to see what mom and dad would do. Yes.
Yep.
Well, that was me. I'm like your son, but I'm a flagrant rule breaker.
Oh.
Oh,
Which,
Well,
like I said,
you
my
would get
wife
punished.
hates it until she doesn't.
Yes.
Like
What
last night, she
her?
didn't hate it because we got to the game.
Yeah. The benefits are, I'm telling you, loopholes, Russell. I follow rules too. I find loopholes within that, so I don't feel guilty about not following the rule.
I don't. What's this guilt? I don't get that.
You know, yeah, I know. It's people with feelings get that. We
I hate
With
feelings.
feelings.
You know, when I raised my kids, and when they were teenagers, we have a loud family. We all talk. We all argue. I wouldn't allow them to tell me how they felt. They had to tell me what they thought. That drove them crazy.
I get it.
Well,
Okay, I'm
it's really
finished.
quick. No, I love that because feelings send you everywhere, but it's like, no, let's just talk the facts.
Let's
Yes.
talk about what you think.
Yes.
Dad's wrong. Tell me why.
Yes.
Yes.
And do it with the right tone.
You know, sometimes you just got to get your emotions out, and then you feel better. You don't even need to plot things. You just need to yell it, and then you feel better.
Ugh.
I know. I'm sorry. I have daughters though. I have 2 daughters, and so when they get overwhelmed and overstimulated, and I do too, because I just am not a very patient person. Sometimes I just am determined that we just hug it out. We don't say anything. We
I
just
must I'm proud to say my oldest child is a daughter, and I raised one that is fact based.
Yeah.
She will rip a hole in you with the facts, but she'll stay on fact.
Well, she's like,
My attitude is I did a good job,
yeah, she's like you.
even if she rips me apart.
I love it. She's like you.
Oh,
Yes.
I
yes.
like it. Well,
That's
Valerie, Linda, what did you guys do this weekend?
Go ahead,
Well,
Linda.
I didn't do much this weekend, but I will tell you, the most fascinating thing that's happened to me of late is I was called for jury duty last week. And I have to say, I'm like, when I sat through the process, so thankfully I was not selected, but sitting through the whole jury selection process is quite an interesting thing when you step back and observe what's going on. You have two sets of attorneys, the defense and the prosecution, and you obviously know what they're trying to accomplish each side, right? And so a lot of the questions that they were asking, they were like, okay, so there were like 100 people called. This was for a criminal trial, and there was no kidding, there were 100 people, 100 of us sitting there. They needed 12 people.
It was going to take 100 in the right case.
Well, I'm just like, seriously? You called 100 people? I was number 36 in the lineup here. And I'm thinking, okay, well, probabilities, I shouldn't. Do you know at the end, juror number 35 and 37 were picked. 37 was the last of 12. I'm like, shoo. But it was so funny watching these attorneys, because it's like a lot of it came down to, okay, so if my client is convicted, then he's very concerned about what's the consequence, right? So this was a permanent bodily injury to the poor victim, right? And so I guess in Texas, you get anywhere from 2 to 20 years plus up to $10,000 in fine. Well, so he puts out this, okay, so who here would be okay with just 2 years? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Somebody has been permanently damaged and he's going to get 2 years. I'm like, that's what disqualified me. I'm like,
way to go, girl.
I'm like, ain't no way. I'm thinking, okay, 20, that's good. That's the max, And they're like, oh, no, we can't. No. Okay, strike. But it was just, it's like, and then they moved further. It's like, then they wanted to know, okay, so they had all these people who were willing to accept 2 years. And then they're like, well, how about just parole? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Where's the justice in this? But all 12 jurors that were picked, they all said, yeah, I'd consider parole. And I'm just like, this is justice? Even in Texas? I'm like, seriously.
Okay, I am surprised, Linda, that the district attorney, the assistant district attorney that was questioning you, did not try to rehabilitate you by giving you hypotheticals.
Oh, they did.
Hypotheticals. Now, in this situation, couldn't you accept it? Because they knew now that you were a good prosecution witness. So now they have to bring you back so you're less unacceptable, so you can consume either one of the strikes or that the defense attorney can't get rid of you easily. That's like one of the tricks. So they did try to rehabilitate you.
Well, no, they didn't actually. So it was all 100 of us that were just questioned in mass, right?
Oh, in mass.
We'd put our little number up, and we'd voice what we weren't going to be buying, right?
And did you talk a lot?
I didn't. Well, it was really funny because at first everybody was really quiet. Nobody was participating until one of the attorneys said, by the way, you need to understand this is jury deselection. And then everybody participated, right?
Yeah.
There's a rule. The more a juror talks, the less likely they are to be accepted.
Yeah. Well,
it's a rule.
They just didn't like, I know exactly what disqualified. It was, the defense attorney basically is like, no, if they're not willing to do 2 years or less, don't want this person.
Yeah.
So, yeah, crazy
stuff.
But
that's the most important part of any trial. That's where you win or lose.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it was fascinating. It was a fascinating look at our judicial system.
Yeah.
Yes.
Valerie, what did you do?
Well, I finally took a break and we went to the beach. and so grateful. The only thing there was a lot of jellyfish there, and
Oh,
I'm talking not. And these are jellyfish I've never seen before, because you usually see like the cabbage head ones, we call them, like
Yeah.
they have, or the little blue man o' wars. But these were like huge, big floating bubbles, and they had pink things in the middle, and then giant tentacles that came out. But they were just all on the shore, and so you had, when we got there, it was low tide, and it just looked like an invasion, like an alien invasion. But the water was green, it was beautiful. But you had, if you wanted to walk in, you had to be like on your guard, just like whoa, whoa, whoa.
Oh
So it was
man.
good. It was good. We were there. It wasn't that hot, so we just relax for a change. It was a nice, relaxing time. So
Nice.
So
I know.
I have to thank the people that listen to us. Most people that listen to us don't watch us on Monday morning when we're live, but on our podcast, they listen to us during the week, uh, driving their cars to work or during their workout practice. That's why our shows are 45 minutes. It's the time of an average workout, Linda. Uh, we're very grateful. We're a top 10 independent book podcast, and we're grateful to our listeners. It what used to be hard to find us on the podcast channels. Uh, I never could find us, and this went on for months until Aimee revamped everything. Did our colors? She said she was selfish, but she wasn't. Uh, did some other things, and now even I can find us right away. Aimee, where can people find us on our podcast, and how can they connect with us on Facebook?
Yeah. So if you don't watch us, you should come over and try it. We're really fun and animated. I talk a lot with my hands and my facial expressions. My mouth is very controlled on the words that come out of it. Russell tells you all the time I don't have a poker face, but it is really fun to kind of come. So come on over and join us on our YouTube or our Facebook group page. You can interact with us. We love interacting with you. You can laugh with or at us, because half the time I'm laughing at and with us too. So you are more than happy to come and be part of our family. But you can find us anywhere that you can look and search for a podcast. If Russell can find us, there's hope that you can also find us, guys.
Awesome.
So you can find us. I like to go to Amazon, Spotify, Apple, Google if you are an Android user. Good Pods also, if that is one of your options. That's where I go to listen to podcasts and listen to music and all of those things. So that's where you can find us. Just type in Author Talk, look for the crimson, red, and gold, because that is my favorite colors. And then you can go and hear all of our 8 years that we've been doing this. You can see, if you want to go to our YouTube channel, how we have evolved from where we started to where we are now, and can only imagine where we will be next year in our 9th year. So go on over and make sure that you do that. But it is called Author Talk. So Valerie, let's get Linda talking about her book. Take it
Yes,
away.
I'm just looking at this cover again because it is beautiful. So Linda, let's encapsulate what Morningstar Academy is for all those who might not be familiar.
yeah. So Morningstar Academy, if I had to summarize it in one sentence, I would say it is about a group of fallen angels, morally conflicted, trying to save the fate of humanity.
That sounds pretty
Does that
amazing.
grab you enough?
Yeah, that's a huge task for just in general for anyone, but the fact that they're angels, they're going to have a little bit of and this is book 3 for Morningstar. Is that correct? Yeah, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Morningstar
Morningstar
Academy.
Academy. So there's 3 books. You can actually see them over my shoulder.
Yeah, I was
Or
looking at that, and
I
yeah,
know
so
if
this one is marked,
yeah, and then
and
here's
so
marked, the close-ups. But yeah, so this is the 3rd in the series, and there's one more coming that I'm working on at the moment.
wow, wow. So how long ago did you start the series?
Oh, about what, 2 years ago? Yes, something like that.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
which is actually it. There's been a lot of stuff going on in my life that has slowed my progress this time. But usually, I like to try to get a book written in 4 months. It's taken a little longer this time, but that's okay.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Yeah, we can
but it's all good.
absolutely relate. All of us can relate
Yes.
to that. Oh, Russell
I
cannot
can't
though. No.
relate because 4 months is rocket fast.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
if you say you've slowed down and done it in 2.5 years, you blow my mind.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, so this is marked as my 20th book. So I've pretty
Mhm.
much gotten, a process down. Typically my
Yeah.
books, if you want the technical way I split it all out, typically I have 4 books in a series. 25%, of the whatever's the story arc, I try to do in each book, building. And then each book typically is around 70,000-80,000 words, split with about 40 chapters, 10 beginning, 20 middle, 10 end. So, each chapter is around 1,500 to 2,000 words. So, I mean, I've over time, I've gotten all of this kind of diluted down into more of a process. So in just in
Yes.
terms of writing, so it doesn't take my first book I released in 2014, I think it was, and that took me like a year to write. But I mean, that was learning publishing. That was the whole huge learning curve. But so I've gotten it a lot faster since.
So, and then tell us a little bit about your characters in these stories.
Yeah, so there's 3 main characters. I mean, there's obviously others because it is an academy fantasy. It's also apocalyptic,
Mhm.
but with an academy setting, typically you have a bunch of students, right? But I would
Mhm.
say that there's 3 primarily. There's Gladriel. She begins in. I have to back up. So the way I set this, this is about a prophecy about the end of the world. And it so essentially I since it relates to a fallen angel, I have a hierarchy of heaven. Okay, so we have first heaven, which basically if you look out the window, you see the skies, you say, oh, the heavens, whatever, first heaven. Second heaven being like outer space. Third heaven would be outside space time, which is where the Almighty lives. Okay, so basically Gladriel, she is a celestial warrior in a squadron of 6, and her best friend gets injured based upon something she feels was her fault. And the Almighty calls her before him and says, do not take revenge. I got this. I will handle this. But after his seeming inaction, after about a month, she takes matters into her own hands and avenges her best friend. But at the same time, having disobeyed the Almighty, ends up being sent out of third heaven. Okay.
Oh, no.
What's that?
I said, oh no.
Yes. Oh no. But her squadron leader, Kessian, who I would say is main character number 2, he is the squadron leader. And what we find out early in the book is that there is a love interest. There's a interest between the 2 of them, but neither have said anything because they work in such close proximity. It's like, they're thinking, okay, if I go and tell her that I'm interested, then if something doesn't work out, then we're still working together and it's just gonna be weird, kind of a thing. And she's
Just
kind of
like everybody's coworkers, right?
exactly.
Yes.
So neither of them say anything, but when she is in the throne room of the Almighty being sentenced to expulsion from third heaven, he confesses her love to her and vows that he will try to find a way to reverse it. Okay. So so basically what that does is it sets up, we end up with her in second heaven. We end up with him in third heaven with the rest of the squadron that's still there. So you get perspectives from both. Okay. With different events happening. Then when Gladriel falls, she is introduced to a place called Morningstar Academy, founded by Lucifer, okay, for the sole purpose of training, or if you will, indoctrinating newly fallen angels into the ways of the other side. Okay, and so essentially, the school, its main purpose is to mess with humans, try to get them to betray what they care about, and basically make their lives a living hell. Well, when she gets there, she is assigned a mentor. You're like, oh boy. his name is Dante. He's not exactly excited about having a mentee. He's been on a quote fast track through Morningstar Academy. He just wants to get this. He wants to get out, and you'll find out what he wants during the series, what he's really after doing. But basically, she ends up creating a hurdle that he has to overcome, and she's basically this huge nuisance that he doesn't want anything to do with when he's first introduced to her. But he doesn't have a choice, and she doesn't have a choice. So you can imagine the relationship that starts, right? Not exactly friendly, shall we say. But Morningstar Academy, essentially, we go through understanding who Dante is, and all that he's been through, and the fact that he's willing to say, you know what, you've gotta hurt this human. You've gotta like attach a demon to this person to either torment them or mess with their thoughts, whatever. Just do it and get it over with, because she's not agreeing with this. She's like, I'm not agreeing with these school rules. I don't care what it's going to cost me. I don't agree. And so she's sticking up for herself. But obviously, you can imagine all the conflict that results. So, so those are the.
I'm fascinated by the depth of your characters, because I guess they've grown over the 3 books.
They have actually, you know, and it's kind of funny because I actually just sent out. I'm doing a series of emails to my email list that essentially goes even deeper into their backstories. So and when I was writing the one on Dante, what I discovered, you know, these characters, they reveal themselves in the strangest times, the strangest ways. But I mean, Dante revealed himself as, well, you've never really gotten to know the inner Dante. And I'm like, why is that? And essentially what comes out is that he's always felt like the outsider because he's very strategic in his thinking. And so his natural bent is to look at a situation or the people and figure out, okay, so I'm really trying to take care of X, Y, and Z. And it doesn't have to be selfish ambition. He's just got a story about, okay, well, maybe they can help me do X, you know, whatever. So he's always thinking strategically. Well, many times this comes across as being very like, he's trying to use me, or, you know, whatever. It destroys trust. Like unbeknownst to him, he doesn't get this. It's like, so he's challenged relationally, but he hasn't understood it. And he always just knows that he's never been able to have any deep, meaningful connections with other angels. And he's kind of gotten to the point where he's like, okay, fine, I'm never going to have deep relationships, but okay, that's just the way it is. And
I feel like I'm sorry. I feel like the readers are able to identify with your characters and their dilemmas.
Yes,
like you were saying, just that everybody has an issue.
They do,
whatever it is. And then, you know, revealing that backstory also gives them a chance to say, like, you know, they weren't always like this, and maybe I wasn't always like this. But then you have stuff come up, and then things happen, and you have to like deal with it, and that's what it sounds like your characters are doing. They're dealing with it and confronting just their moral issues as well.
Yes. What I love to do when I write books is the first book I ever read as a fantasy was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. And what I observed, I was 8 at the time. So my 8-year-old brain, don't ask me why, but what it thoroughly understood was there were 3 layers in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. There was a London at that time during war. There was Narnia. But what I think a lot of readers don't get is there was a 3rd layer. It was a meaning layer undergirding the entire series. For instance, who is Aslan? Well, he's the lion, but he's also, if you want to say, an archetype of Jesus. When he is slain on the stone table and the stone table is broken in 2, that's Jesus on the cross. The stone table breaking in 2 is the veil in the temple, torn top to bottom. And the thing is like a foot thick. So it's not like a strong breeze is going to, you know, take the thing down. So, I mean, there was a meaning layer. And so when I started writing, I've never taken, you know, courses in writing anyway. So with this in my background, that's how I started writing. I approached it. Any series that I write, I have a meaning layer below it. And I'm always working on like what are the problems these characters like embody and need to overcome. One of my series, God of Secrets, it's about self-image, right? Working on that. Another one is #MeToo, overcoming. So you really like fluffy issues, right? But
Yes.
I mean, these are all young adult. But what I also say is because of the vivid world building and these complex issues, I think a lot of adult fantasy readers love these books too.
Absolutely. Have you always written in this genre, or are your other books in different kinds of stories?
Nope, I've always written fantasy. So
Mhm.
I
What do you
love
like about it?
yeah, I love inventing a fantasy world. I mean, just like if I remember studying J.K. Rowling when I first started writing, and my big question was, what is it that made the Harry Potter series so popular? And there were a lot of people that had, their opinions. I mean, of course, there were the literary people that said, "Oh, well, she didn't do a very good job. It just stinks," right? It's like, but you had billions of sales. It's like, so who cares if from a
Yes.
look down your nose at her, it's like, okay, maybe it wasn't technically the best. It's like, that's not what she cared about.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, what they speak to is the world she created. It was just a little bit different, but similar enough that readers could identify with it and have fun with it. Like, the staircases at Hogwarts that move. It's like, I have never been on a moving staircase, but you could certainly envision what would happen, right?
And you know what? That also makes me think of the Twilight series, like just a little bit of humanity and reality, but then we have the element of the fantasy come in. And
Totally.
and people just embrace the possibility of like maybe that could actually happen,
Yes.
and that just, you don't have to go too far to just use your imagination, and then you can relate to those characters.
Yes, totally. One of the things I always do in my series is I always have one, if not more, libraries that I would love to go check out. One of them, so for instance, in the Morningstar Academy series, I have a celestial library. I call them the celestial stacks, right? And basically, you go to a reading room in the back, and essentially, you can think of a scenario of what situation you might like to read in. You want to read by the beach, like you had your weekend, or on a snow-covered mountain, or wherever, in a cabin with hot chocolate, whatever. And basically, all these props just show up. And so you basically can just think off the top of your head, I'd like to sit in a lounge chair by the beach, and on the beach and by an ocean, and all of a sudden the front wall becomes the ocean, kind of like the hologram or holodeck on Star
I
Trek.
was just gonna say that Star Trek, because
Totally.
isn't that what they do? They walk in there like, I want a saloon from the Wild West.
Yeah, but imagine making your own library reading experience that way, right?
That'd be so awesome. Yes.
Yes. So I always have fun with the library, and just, I mean, whenever I'm building a world, a fantasy world, I always first, there has to be common elements. There's the rules of the way the world works, and you can never betray those because readers will always nail you on them. But once you establish the world, the physics of how things work, I always love to look at any scene that I'm painting, anywhere they show up. I'm like, what would be a really cool place? And I always try to envision in my mind. A lot of times I'll go out to Pinterest or just some other online site just to kind of get a visual before I write the scene, because so many little details matter. If you don't nail the details, it's not nearly as effective. So I always want a place that I would love to hang out.
Absolutely. And that's so true about the details. Like I just finished another novel, and I was like, so that author just was on point, just like tying all the pieces. And then, then you think back when you finish your story, like, that was great,
Yeah,
because you appreciate that the author put so much thought into that, and the process of getting that story together and sharing all those pieces. And I was like, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of
it
work to
is.
make that happen in your story. And so I'm sure all your fans really appreciate that.
Well, I look at, so Amazon always at the top of the reviews anymore, they summarize it with AI. What are the most common phrases and whatnot used in the reviews? And almost without exception, there's usually some sort of story about the vivid world and the characters you can identify with. Those are
awesome.
two, which if I can see those as the main themes, I'm like, okay, I nailed this one. So.
Yes. And so book 4 is, I guess, around the corner, just maybe
It
like
is. I'm
early
working
spring.
on it. Yep. This one's a nice uplifting title. Destroyed. Yeah. Yes. So it's all
I
good.
love it. Russell, did you have any questions, Russell?
I have 100 questions.
Cool.
I bet.
Okay, do you have your regular readers now? You're 3 books in. Have any of your regular readers, or have several of them said, "Why is this character?" I don't mean from the emails, but wanting it actually in a book, wanting to know the motivation or why a certain character behaves the way they do. Have you got increasing questions about something like that?
Well, what I can point to is, so the reason I mentioned the email series that I'm doing right now in terms of explaining more the backstory, that a lot of that was triggered because I started asking my email subscribers, what questions do you have about, for instance, Dante? I've done one on Cassian, I've done one on Dante, and I'm like, what questions do you have? What more do you want to know? And so that's been giving readers the opportunity to ask some really good questions. I mean, some of them were, I had to sit there and go, why do they do that?
What was one of the good questions you can tell us without telling secrets?
Well, so I'll just go back to the whole, why does Dante behave the way he does, right? And basically, when I really deeply considered that question, that's when the whole narrative about, well, he's socially awkward came out. And he struggles with building deep, intimate relationships because of it. And just his natural propensity for how he sees the world kind of thwarts him many times. And so I did not have that story about him. But let me assure you, because he chose to reveal it at this point in time, it is absolutely in this last book. I'm like, I love it when my characters will surprise me that way. And it's so funny to say that because it's like, when I talked to my moderator group, I said, guys, Dante just told me this all about himself. And they're cracking up because they're like, well, it was your own brain that made up this.
It's like, not your own brain, is it? It's not.
It's been hijacked by all these characters, and it's great. But it's like at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, it fundamentally is my brain, but it's like, whatever. But it's just it is kind of hilarious if you think about it. But it's my brain putting in place all these different, disparate little pieces that all of a sudden come together in a coherent organization called Dante has social issues. He's socially awkward, even though he puts on a great show to not have people realize that. So,
Linda, where can people find? Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I really appreciate in this book that you put a whole synopsis of what has happened before. So if people want to jump in and read Marked, then they can do that.
Yes.
So,
and that's one thing I do. So obviously I don't do it in Curse, book 1, but with Damned, which is book 2, and Marked, book 3, and you'll get it again in Destroyed, I summarize the book before it just so that, and it also works, not just jumping in, because I really discourage people from jumping in because characters change so much over the arc that unless you really understand the magnitude of the change they've gone through, it's hard to really appreciate where they are at that point. So I really encourage people start at the beginning, but so if you've been, let's just say in this case, it's been 9 months since you read Marked, you've read several other books in the meantime, and it's like, oh, what was going on? Because the number of times I've had to go back and reread an entire series because I can't remember where I was at before the next book comes out. So I'm trying to help people, and I've heard glowing reviews about, it's like, it was awesome. She put a summary in the front.
So. Yeah, I think most people do need a refresher. Just Even when I'll do that with a TV show. I'm like, okay, what happened again? You know, and so I'll have to go back and watch the last episode or so.
Yes.
Well, and Russell, you were going to say, where's the books?
Where's the books?
Yep.
How can people find you? And how can they get on the email list?
Perfect.
And if you could say it slowly so the people that are listening and not watching can see it or hear it.
So you can get my books. I prefer that you buy them on my website, which is L.R.W. Lee. That's lee.com. And for this podcast, I'm actually giving a 25% off coupon. So anybody who uses that, it's AuthorTalk25 is the coupon. So if you go to my website, lrwlee.com, and you go to the Morningstar Academy series, you will find all the books there. They're available in ebook, paperback. Some of them have hardbacks, but the ebooks go through BookFunnel, and so you can download it in any format you need. You can also get them on Amazon, but you can't use the coupon on Amazon. So I just like to know, the problem with Amazon is the fact that you never get to know your readers. They will never tell you who bought the book, which has always been, I'm like, well, if you told me who bought the book, then maybe I could market more to them. But they refuse to tell you. So I'm like, fine. Which is why I much prefer people buy directly from me on my website, which, one more time, lrwlee.com. And the coupon is AuthorTalk25 will work. So
nice. I love it. I love a good coupon, a good deal. You know, I love those. And so, you know, you guys, this happens every time, and you guys always make fun of me for it. But I already went over there and they're in my shopping cart because it, you know, just listening to you talk and Valerie getting, you know, Linda talking, it's just authors sell books, right? Because you wrote the book, so you know it better than anybody. So it's been such a fun conversation. But I am over on your website, so you guys go and take advantage of it and use the coupon code for sure. But everybody, Russell's giving me the stank eye because, you know, we're overtime, and it wouldn't be Author Talk if we weren't overtime, and Russell giving me a dirty look every now and then. But with all that being said, you guys, we hope that you all have a fantastic Monday, a great rest of your day. Russell, send some of the fall to us here in Texas.
yes, please.
Goodness. But until next Monday, everybody, bye for now.